Thank you everyone for being here tonight on this second annual World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims. I'm Laura Keenan, co-founder of Families for Safe Streets San Diego. We're a group of loved ones whose families were killed in traffic collisions or have survived ourselves. We advocate for safer streets to save other lives and families from our pain. I formed this group after my husband, Matt Keenan, was killed by a wrong-way driver nearly 2 years ago in the bike lane riding to the movies. He was on Camino del Rio South in Mission Valley. He was 42 years old and father to our then 15-month-old son, Evan, who's here tonight. I'm touched and encouraged by the outpouring of support we have here today. Thank you so much. We are here to remember, support, and act. We have an incredible speaker lineup with powerful and touching stories. As part of this, Families for Safe Streets is calling on the City of San Diego to adopt 3 life-saving solutions. We will also hear from members of our local government and community. But first, I'd like to honor the individuals who have been killed or seriously injured in preventable traffic crashes. Every year, over 200 people are killed in San Diego County traffic collisions. These 283 pairs of empty shoes you see in front of me, lit by 283 luminarias, represent the 283 people killed in San Diego County last year alone. This is overwhelming. 283 people equals 2 737 planes crashing in our county, and this is happening every year. Many people become numb to the almost daily crashes we hear about and accepting these deaths and injuries as part of our everyday lives, but we never stand for 2 planes crashing in our county every year. Each of these individuals was a person with a family and a story that did not have to end. You see some of these individuals, you see some of them on these memorial posters here, and you'll hear it from many of their loved ones. Their flames do not die, their passions for life live on through us. We have the power to save these lives with life-saving tools. Your knowledge and presence here shows our local government Your support and presence here shows our local government that you care and that we want to see measurable improvement in reducing traffic deaths. Thank you. Please join me in a moment of silence as I light one more candle to honor all of those lives we lost in a traffic collision. Ages 1 through 54. These are our children, our parents, our partners, and our friends. These are preventable deaths. We know that decreasing a car speed by 15 miles an hour can be the difference between near certain death for a pedestrian and a 90% chance of survival. also know that adding protected bike lanes to streets reduces injury crashes for all road users, including drivers, up to 58%, and reduces the risk of injury to a cyclist by up to 90%. Nearly 50% of all traffic crashes involving injuries or fatalities occur at an intersection. We know many other life-saving proven measures that will save lives. Despite having the tools and knowledge to stop these deaths, they're only increasing. Total traffic deaths in the city of San Diego are at a 10-year high for the third year in a row. All of these victims were half of these victims were pedestrians, a 10-year high. Cycling deaths and serious injuries are also at a 10-year high. These are our most vulnerable road users, and we need to protect them. In 2015, the city of San Diego committed to Vision Zero, zero traffic deaths and serious injuries by 2025. And although we commend the city for some progress, making safer bike lanes, improving intersections, and slowing down traffic, these efforts are not keeping pace with the death and serious injuries. Our local government is failing us. Our government leaders and city leaders are responsible for the safety of our community and its citizens. Starting tomorrow, our mayor and city leaders can choose to make meaningful progress towards reducing traffic deaths by committing to best practices and following through with action. They can choose to find ways around the reasons, politics, delays, tight budgets, outdated manuals or policies, parking spots, and congestion. They can choose to achieve the possible rather than the convenient. If they don't, more than 100 people will almost certainly die on our city streets next year. We are calling for Mayor Gloria and our city leaders to implement 3 simple, cost-effective, life-saving solutions. First, fix our fatal 15 most dangerous intersections. Add protection to 75 miles of bikeways along upcoming slurry and capital improvement projects. And update the city street design manual to reflect current best practices according to the National Association of City Transportation Officials, or NACTO's 4 major design guides. In Matt's case, the driver was reckless. But no matter how careful people are, they are still human and make mistakes. Safe infrastructure is how we save lives. If these solutions had been implemented, Matt, and the loved ones of everyone up here, and many of the 804 people killed in preventable traffic crashes since the promise of Vision Zero would be alive. Yesterday, I picked up this bike from the police station. This is the bike that Matt was riding when he was killed. I couldn't get myself to get it before. And you ask why now? I want everyone to see what happens when we don't protect our most vulnerable. And Evan, my son, has been asking, where's Daddy's bike? Can it be fixed? It can't be fixed. Matt didn't have a chance. He was defenseless when the wrong way driver crashed into his narrow painted bike lane at 35 miles per hour. He died at the scene alone with strangers. The autopsy report said cause of death, blunt force injury to the abdomen. That didn't really set in until I saw his bike ripped into 2, right where his abdomen would have been. To think about the pain he must have experienced brings me to my knees. It can't be fixed, but it could have been prevented. If Camino del Rio South, their 35 mile per hour street that Matt was riding on, adhered to NACTO standards, it would have had a protected bike lane, increasing his chance of survival by 90%. If the city chose to keep the painted bike lane and instead slow traffic down to 25 miles per hour per NACDO guidelines, Matt's chance of dying would have been cut in half. We all use our streets. Wouldn't you do everything in your power to stop someone from dying this way, especially someone you love? Matt would be here today seeing his son grow up if our city had funded and implemented its own promise of Vision Zero to protect all road users, especially the most vulnerable. He'll never get to see his son grow up. And instead, I stand here today as a widow and solo parent to our now three-year-old son who only knows his dad through photos, stories, but no memories of his own. He'll never get to feel how special he was to his dad and how proud his dad was of him and would be throughout his entire life. Saturday was Matt's birthday. He would have been 45. When I told Evan it's Daddy's birthday, he asked me with the glimmer of hope in his eyes, "Is Daddy coming?" And as I shook my head, heartbroken that this is my son's life, he looked at me and said, "Maybe next time?" I had to tell him no and remind him that his daddy is dead. So that means we don't get to see him anymore, as much as he wants to be here. And then Evan asked me, this is Evan. And then asked me, why is Daddy dead? And I had to tell him because the driver was reckless and the city did not design safe streets. I implore our city leaders, do everything in your power to prevent anyone else from dying I implore our city leaders to do everything in your power to prevent another family from experiencing this unimaginable pain and from anyone else from dying on our streets. I urge our mayor and city leaders and county officials to value our community's loved ones like their own. Would you stop short of best practices for your loved one? Hold yourself to best practices. One person dying is too many, and we can prevent it. Please commit to our 3 asks and show San Diego that you care about making serious progress towards San Diego's Vision Zero promises. As I wrote on Matt's 45th happy birthday banner at his ghost bike, our memories of you and the echoes of your laughter are with us daily, and the hole in our heart is forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Hi. My name is Nancy Cavanaugh Wilson, and I reached out to Laura in September of 2021 when I saw her story on the news when Matt got killed.
Nancy, hold it closer.
Okay. Now, okay, is that better? Okay. Like I said, I reached out to Laura in September of 2021 when I saw Matt's story, and I felt a connection because my husband, Kevin Wilson, was killed in January 20th of 2020 while he was cycling. A driver veered into the bike lane and hit Kevin from behind, catapulted him 20 feet in the air, and Kevin landed on the pavement, and his helmet wasn't enough to save him, and he took his last breath there. That's why I fully support Laura and what she's doing and protected bike lanes. 283 pair of shoes. That's 24 people a month, 5 people a week, 283 funerals in 2022. It's far too many. Changes need to be made, and sooner rather than later. I appreciate our city representatives showing up and being here. I just hope they take the action that needs to be taken to save lives. Perhaps if there would have been a protected bike lane when Kevin was cycling on Martin Luther King Day at 10:30 in the morning, a protected bike lane could have saved his life, and he'd be with me today. With the upcoming holidays, I urge everybody to use a designated driver and hold your loved ones dear, because you never know from one minute to the next what could happen. And it's the worst pain I've ever experienced. So I urge Mayor Gloria and our city councilman to do what needs to be done to make these changes. Thanks everybody for coming out, and be safe.
Hi, my name is Scott Moore. I'm here to represent my person, Joshua Gilliland. He died earlier this year in June. He was on his way to work, walking from Hillcrest to University Heights, and was struck by a driver that ran a red light at the intersection of Elton Homes Park Boulevard and Washington Street. All right, thank you. Hi, I'll start over. My name's Scott Moore. This is my person, Joshua Gilliland. He died this year in June. It was the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life, and it still is. He was walking to work and was struck by a driver at the intersection of El Cajon, Normal Street, Washington. It's one of the most confusing intersections, and surprisingly, it didn't even make the list of the most 15 dangerous intersections, which just blows my mind. And there's so many things that could be done. So, what I think is notable about Josh is he followed every rule as a pedestrian. I mean, ad nauseum. Like all of our friends, we knew he would wait to cross an intersection, even if he didn't see anybody for miles. I mean, that was just Josh. He was proud to be a pedestrian. When we moved together here to San Diego from the Midwest in 2001, he just didn't renew his driver's license. He was stoked to live in Hillcrest. We love that we moved out here. We love living in a walking community. And it served us so well. We made a great life for 20 years, but that was cut short again in June when he was driving and he was killed. So I'm here today to first say thank you for everybody for showing up and for this opportunity. Thank law enforcement for coming. I don't think you get enough support to keep our streets as safe as they need to be kept. I'd like to echo what Laura said, and there's 3 initiatives. First being the 15 fatal intersections, the most fatal intersections. There's a protection to 75 miles of bikeway along upcoming slurry and capital ad improvement projects. And then we have proven research. It's the National Association of City Transportation Officials, guidelines and best practices. Wouldn't it be great if we started there? So, again, thank you for coming. I'm here to represent Josh. I love him. I'll never have him back. None of us will. Let's do something about this. I want this to be a call to action. So, thank you again for the opportunity.
My name's Steve Shinn. Today is the day of remembrance for the victims that we've lost and to some of our unsafe streets that we have here in San Diego. You have 283 pairs of shoes in front of you representing the 2022 San Diego traffic deaths. On July 20, 2021, my wife, Laura Shinn, was cycling to work in broad daylight in a bike lane on Pershing Drive in Balboa Park. A driver going 50 miles an hour drove into the unprotected bike lane and killed her from behind. Her helmet, her bright clothes, her flashing lights, her reflective panniers did not protect her. She was hit so hard she was actually knocked out of her shoes that were clipped to her pedals. Her feet were some of her many broken bones. But she was really much more than just a pair of shoes. Laura was an architect, an urban planner. She was a strong advocate for sustainability, livable communities, and complete safe streets. She promoted her beliefs in her work, in her volunteer activities, and in her actions. She was also my life. We'd been together for 40 years since college. We were joined at the hip and did everything together. We were both architects, community advocates, teachers, cyclists, hikers, inline skaters, and travelers. Losing her was like losing half of my body and soul. Pershing Drive runs through our iconic Balboa Park. It connects downtown with 5 mixed-use residential neighborhoods, yet it is treated as a freeway with an excessive 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. Sandag identified Pershing Drive as an unsafe street that required protected bike lanes in the 2013 Regional Bike Plan, with construction scheduled to begin in 2018, which did not happen. 2 months after Laura was killed, Johnny Sepulveda was also killed on the same road while riding a scooter in the bike lane. After 2 senseless deaths, the city did install temporary protected bike lanes 2 weeks later. If the city had taken the cheap and easy action of building those temporary or permanent protected bike lanes as scheduled in 2018, Laura and Johnny would be with us here today. In 2015, as you've heard, San Diego developed the Vision Zero plan to achieve 0 traffic-related fatalities and severe injuries. These words need action because we're not making progress. Our deaths are continuing to rise. So we're asking the city to fix the 15 most dangerous and fatal intersections in San Diego for pedestrians and cyclists. We are also asking to add protection to 75 miles of bikeways along with upcoming slurry and capital improvement projects. The implementation of these asks back in 2015 could have saved Laura's life. We need our city to spend the next 364 days implementing complete safe streets. Help us eliminate the shoes and the victims for next year. We lost a strong advocate for safe streets with the death of Laura. No one can fill her shoes. If she was alive today, she would tell us to walk the talk and dedicate ourselves to action and implementation, not just words and plans. Thank you for listening and implementing our life-saving requests.
Good evening. My name is Pualani Vasquez, and I'm the Trauma Injury Prevention and Community Outreach Coordinator for Scripps Mercy Hospital. I'm here with my colleagues from the trauma centers in San Diego County. We have the unique responsibility of putting people back together after being injured in roadway crashes. I know all of us here tonight can agree that even one life lost is too many, especially when so many of these tragedies could have been prevented. Biking and walking is one of the most inexpensive and environmentally friendly forms of transportation, and it's a big part of the sustainability for San Diego County. They provide essential connections between residential, retail, and commercial land use, as well as access to public transit. For far too long, we have prioritized the movement of motor vehicles over the safety of all road users, especially our vulnerable road users. Equitable investment must be made in engineering initiatives so that our city's communities and neighborhoods are safe and accessible for all modes and all people. In the state of California, 27% of fatal roadway crashes involve pedestrians and bicyclists. Unfortunately, preliminary data shows this trend is not decreasing. Many factors have combined to put the most vulnerable road users at historic levels of risk. But there is good news. At the highest levels of our government, all the way to local municipalities, we are adopting a safe system approach. We are focusing on using every tool available to save lives, including engineering, community outreach, emergency response, and equitable enforcement that prioritizes prevention of driving behaviors like speeding, distraction, and impairment. Those are the behaviors that pose the greatest threats to non-motorized road users. We have a shared responsibility, and we all have a role to play. There is something that we all can do to make our roadways safer, and that is adopting a culture of safety. We need to leverage everything that works: infrastructure improvements, changes to road design, equitable enforcement to traffic safety laws, and community outreach to reverse this deadly trend and make our roadways safe for people walking, biking, and rolling. Thank you again for taking the time to shine a light on preventing injuries and remembering all victims of traffic safety.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephen Whitburn, the San Diego City Council member for District 3, the council district that we're in right now, and a council district in which far too many pedestrians and bicyclists have lost their lives on our roads. I'm pleased to be joined tonight by Council President Shinn Elo-Rivera, Councilmember Joe LaCava, and Councilmember Raul Campillo, each of whom we'll be hearing from in a moment. I want to begin by acknowledging Families for Safe Streets, especially Laura Keenan and all those tonight who have lost loved ones, and that includes Evan. I appreciate Circulate San Diego for helping to bring us together tonight. And thanks to everybody who is standing behind me and here in this area at City Hall as we observe the second annual World Day of Remembrance for road traffic victims. It is both an honor and a responsibility to address you on this occasion, especially as we confront the stark reality that traffic deaths and serious injuries are not just statistics. They are people. People in our communities, our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones, people from whom we've heard tonight. Their absence leaves an indelible void in the lives of the people who knew and who loved them. And we must recognize that these tragedies are preventable. And as elected officials, we must be the architects of change. We must save lives using all the tools that are available to us to make our streets safer for everyone. Just last month, the city auditor's report stated unequivocally that pedestrian fatalities in San Diego and nationwide continue to rise. I found the report to be deeply troubling and to be a call of action to prioritize the safety of all of our citizens. So I stand before you tonight not just as a council member, but more importantly as a member of our community, deeply committed to making our streets safer. We are here this evening to advance three simple yet profoundly impactful solutions that will save lives. And you've heard those three already tonight. Let us commit to fixing the 15 most dangerous intersections in our city, which are dubbed the Fatal 15. Secondly, let us add protection to 75 miles of bikeways during the upcoming slurry and capital improvement projects. Our cyclists deserve safe passage. And finally, we must update the city's street design manual using current best practices to ensure that our infrastructure reflects the latest advancements in safety. These solutions are not extravagant and they are not unattainable. They are practical, they are cost-effective measures that, if implemented, will save lives. Together, we can transform our city into a haven where every journey ends safely and where the World Day of Remembrance becomes a day of reflection on our progress. Thank you, and now I would like to introduce Councilmember Raul Campillo, who is joining us via video this evening.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Raul Campillo, and I'm a San Diego City Council member for District 7. Working to make sure that we implement Vision Zero has been one of my biggest goals over the last 3 years, and I just want to say how I am standing with Families for Safe Streets San Diego and Circulate San Diego and all the other mobility groups that are working so hard to protect the lives of San Diegans who choose to walk or bike. As we move forward into the next fiscal year, I'm going to be fighting for far more funding for things like Class 4 bike lanes and the infrastructure that makes it safe to bike to work. I want to reiterate something that is deeply important to this conversation. The idea that convenience for people is more important than the safety of people. That is just fundamentally wrong. And I want to see everyone get to where they want to go as quickly and safely as possible, but we have to remember that the people who choose the courageous thing of taking a bike to work or wherever they're trying to go are doing us all a favor by reducing traffic and reducing greenhouse gas emissions and being healthy as well. And we need to make sure that we don't ever say that their safety is not as important as the convenience of people driving cars. Absolutely, the safety of everyone is more important than the convenience of anyone. And I'm going to continue to live up to that principle. Thank you for all you do. To the families who tell their stories, I'm standing with you.
Good evening. I am LaCava. I am a council member from District 1. And as we stand here bathed by the tears of heaven that mourn the 283 deaths, I am so honored to stand with these family and friends who mourn the loss of friends, spouses, children. I want to thank you, Laura, the San Diego Bicycle Coalition, the Families for Safe Streets, and Circulate San Diego, who take on this work every single day. And for all of us here today, we share that fundamental value that our roads must be a place for everyone. Whether you are biking, walking, rolling, or driving, you are entitled to ride safely, never feeling that your life or someone else's life is in danger. Tragically, that is not yet the case. To the families here that have experienced the unthinkable, I am sorry for your loss. Laura and Steve, your advocacy on behalf of your spouses and too many others is appreciated, heard, and impactful. It is the shared commitment among us council members here today that the World Day of Remembrance is not just a pause in this week's activities, but a call to action. Today is a reminder to fight harder to protect San Diegans, for your families and our families. Among the council members here, we have 2 new fathers, and I am fortunate to be a new grandfather. Our Vision Zero goals are for them and their generation, and the goal is also for all of us today. It is truly valuing each other. It is throwing out the old ways of thinking that make all forms of mobility difficult and dangerous. It doesn't have to be like that. We won't let it stay like that. Your advocacy has led to stronger policies, complete streets, the master mobility plan, better infrastructure. But those are empty words in the lives of these individuals that we've lost. They are empty words to the loved ones and friends who have lost someone special in their lives. So this policies is just the beginning. We're not there yet, but we will continue undaunted. Today we remember those who we have lost and pledge to act in their memory to eliminate future tragedies. We have so much more work to do, and while the need is great and the revenue thin, I too join in commitment to fight for every dollar to figure out how we solve the 15 most dangerous intersections and that needed 75 miles of bike lanes that really offer true protection to every bicyclist, to every pedestrian, to those who roll through our streets, and to the motorists that use them. And thank you for this opportunity to spend a moment with all of you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shinn Elo-Rivera. I proudly represent San Diego City Council District 9 and serve as the San Diego City Council President. I want to start by thanking Laura, thanking Steve, thanking all of the families who've courageously stood here and shared their stories and advocated for a safer San Diego. I want to thank my colleagues, council members Whitburn, LaCava, and Campillo for being out here with us as well. the act of coming and sharing traumatic stories about the loss of loved ones is an act of tremendous courage and something that we all should appreciate. Every time that we've heard from our advocates, it has a profound effect on me, and I hope on everyone. As Councilmember Campillo touched on, oftentimes there's significant resistance to the changes that we are talking about, and the change is not for any other reason than the desire to make our community safer. 5 of the most 15 dangerous intersections in the city are within District 9. Too often I hear about close calls and injuries on our roads to our elders, our youth, and everyone in our community. And as someone who tries to make a point to ride my bike 2 or 3 times a week to work, the stories that we hear echo in my mind every single time I leave my house. Just about everything that I do these days is filtered through the lens of being a new father. And Stephen and Laura in particular, her story has always resonated with me, and I will say that since August, when my baby Benny joined us, there is not a time that I leave my home to ride to work or ride somewhere else where I don't think about your stories. And it shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be that we have hundreds of lives to pay tribute to on an annual basis. It should not be that when I give my wife and Benny a kiss when I leave to get on my bike and she says, "Be careful," that I have numerous stories of lost lives that filter through my mind every single time. And I hope that I will not be the next set of shoes that we are paying tribute to. We should certainly aspire to better than that, and we should be better than that. So I want to reiterate my commitment to providing safer streets for all. I'm committed to updating our street design manual this year. I'm committed to advocating for our fiscal year 25 budget to include more investments in our pedestrian and bike infrastructure. And I know that some of my colleagues are also committed to that. What I need, we all need, is it to go beyond the folks that are up here and for our entire city to recognize that we should never accept the unnecessary loss of life. And resistance to investments and changes in policy are nothing more than resistance to protecting people's lives. So we all can do better. The city can certainly do better. You have my commitment, and you have the commitment of several of my colleagues to make next year a better year when it comes to protecting the lives of pedestrians, cyclists, and everyone who uses our roads. With that, I'd like to introduce Representative Scott Peters, who will also be joining us by video.
Hi, I'm Congressman Scott Peters, and I have the honor of representing San Diego, Coronado, Escondido, and San Marcos in the United States House of Representatives. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you there today in person, but I needed to be to Washington, D.C. to vote on important legislation. Each year we commemorate this day to honor the lives cut short and the families shattered by the devastating toll of traffic collisions. We remember those who are no longer with us, and we stand in solidarity with families who continue to suffer from the consequences of these tragic events. The statistics are stark and sobering. Every year, millions are added to the current toll of over 50 million killed and hundreds of millions injured since the first road death 125 years ago. In San Diego alone, we mourn 283 people killed just so far this year. The federal government has a critical role to play in reducing traffic fatalities. We have to prioritize recent investments in infrastructure to enhance road safety and bolster education and awareness. We have the responsibility to make sure that these investments prioritize safety and access for all. Our investments should prioritize the development of safer road systems and promote more innovative technologies that enhance vehicle safety. We must support campaigns that educate and raise awareness around this subject, like the work of Circulate San Diego. I also commend Circulate San Diego and the City of San Diego for their participation in Vision Zero. Let's remember the people behind the statistics. The daughter who won't come home, the father who won't see his children grow, the friend whose laughter has been silenced. Their absence serves as a painful reminder of the work that lies ahead of us. To those who've lost loved ones to traffic deaths, I stand with you in your grief and remain committed to making the changes necessary to prevent more tragedies like these. Let's honor the memory of those we have lost by taking meaningful action. Let's strive to create a reality where our roads are safe for every individual, regardless of mode of transportation, and where no family must endure the heartache of losing a loved one to a preventable traffic death. Thank you.
Thank you everyone again for being here today, especially everyone who spoke. Your words really touched me and were powerful. I hope we walk away with some action going forward. I'm encouraged. Thank you everyone, and we are available for interviews if anybody would like to. So thank you again. Have a good evening.